You know, mass blocking people as a way of trying to prevent the flow of ideas is not a new concept. Going way back, I viewed it as a badge of honour when I was top of Creation Wiki's list of YouTube atheists that they suggested that you should block without even watching. Naturally, this was because they didn't like what I was saying. Now, many first world feminists, particularly those in the atheist community, have a similar aversion to the free exchange of ideas. And so it's little surprise that they took to draconian methods to ensure that they, and others, were not exposed to new and different ideas. This took the form of a blockbot, which was basically a script for mass blocking people. This list of people to block, whilst having a handful of trolls to give the veneer of credibility, was actually far more about mass blocking people on Twitter, but not just blocking them, but also to automatically flag their channels for spam. The only sensible purpose for doing this is to try and get their Twitter account suspended by manipulating Twitter's automated algorithms. That is, the blockbot itself was not meant merely to block people, but also to exploit Twitter's automated features to get people's accounts, who they didn't agree with, suspended. That is, it was far more a mechanism of harassment than a mechanism for preventing it. Now, it's no secret that I vigorously disagree with many feminists for reasons I have amply laid out in previous videos. And therefore it was no surprise that I was on the first page of this blockbot, which was created and supported by the Atheism Plus, Free Thought bloggers, First World Feminism community. Well, if their response to the free exchange of ideas is to stick their head in the sand and label their detractors as haters and harassers, that's fine. Because we all know no sensible third party, no sensible journalist would be taken in by such a feeble excuse. Well, actually, it turns out no. The BBC's Newsnight programme, of all people, bought into this narrative hook, line and sinker, without, it seems, even doing the most incredibly rudimentary fact-checking on this. Now, as someone who was raised in the UK, I have a lot of respect for the journalism of the BBC. But so much of that evaporated in an instant when our intrepid reporter, Paul Mason, accepts this explanation that certain women are given a hard time online because
the social problem is that men are raised to hate women. And technology is not going to fix that. What's going to fix that is a societal conversation.
Seriously, BBC, what the hell was that? And to be honest, the accompanying article of "Is there a tech solution for the hatred of women?" wasn't much better. When did the bar of journalism drop so low that you can reduce complicated issues such as the line between harassment and criticism of public figures to...
The social problem is that men are raised to hate women. And technology is not going to fix that.
Or is this really the BBC stooping to yellow journalism? Oh, Sarah Palin. Why was she given such a hard time? Was it because she could see Russia from her house? Or was it because she thought Africa was a country? No, of course not. It's because men are trained to hate women. You know, every boy has to attend those hate women classes before PE. Else, how would they know to hate women? Now, is any of this questioned by Paul Mason? No, not even a hint of it. He just accepts it with a further validation of this conversation with what seems to be a pretty vanilla and honest troll. Paul Mason, what's the motivation? Troll, laughs. Paul Mason, I've been on here since the year dot and have never been seriously griefed, so why are so many women targeted? What? Really? That's bizarre, because according to me, 41 seconds earlier in the interview, you say you've suffered loads of abuse.
I've been on here since the year dot and never been seriously griefed. When I showed her some of the abusers on my timeline...
Troll, because women are easy. They get butthurt so easily and react. If they don't react, nobody flames. It's that simple. People target feminazis because they're incredibly hypocritical and full of bullshit.
I don't know if you're noticing a theme. Patriarchy. Anyways, I'm not done. Not done. Shut the fuck up. Feminists do not want you. Shut the fuck up. Let me finish my list. Patriarchy. 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 Feminists hate patriarchy. We do not hate you, fuckface.
Is there a political agenda? It's just for laughs, not a political cause. If the bitch had just blocked and moved on, no one would have cared.
If the bitch had just blocked and moved on, nobody would have cared.
And then he goes on to address what are the tech solutions to dealing with this social problem of men being raised to hate women. But it gets even worse than that. Paul Mason actually brings up Rebecca Watson and Elevatorgate as an example of women getting abused. What? Are you kidding me? I mean, glossing over the part of the story where she described Richard Dawkins as a wealthy, old, heterosexual white male, she describes in her own words this experience, how she was politely asked if she would like to join someone for coffee as a bad experience.
So I walked to the elevator and a man got on the elevator with me and said, "Don't take this the wrong way, but I find you very interesting and I would like to talk more. Would you like to come to my hotel room for coffee?" Just a word to the wise here, guys, don't do that.
For saying this, she was deluged with abuse on Twitter. In response, her supporters set up a program that monitors and blocks a shared list of abusers.
This was the very epitome of first world problems. And yeah, expecting the entire male population of the planet to not to do that, for them to change because you, one person, felt mildly uncomfortable once in an elevator is so outrageously arrogant, so outrageously self-centered that of course she got a load of flack for it. It's like when Justin Bieber wrote in the Anne Frank Museum guest book, "Anne was a great girl, hopefully she would have been a believer." Look, she didn't get grief because she was a woman. She got it because what she said in an open and public forum was so outrageously arrogant and self-centered.
Her supporters set up a program that monitors and blocks a shared list of abusers, and the man who wrote it talked me through the installation. I'll just block the super slimy.
The worst, yeah.
The worst. Let's do it. The block bot worked.
And that's it. That's the BBC describing me and many others as super slimy and the worst. Oh, fantastic, BBC. So now anyone who disagrees with you, you can just label them as abusers and call that journalism. Yeah, that's me, right there on the first page of this shared list of abusers of this block bot. And you know that Paul Mason really bought into this, because even though I have to admit I'd never heard of him before, and even though I'd never thought about tweeting him, well, before he labelled me as super slimy and an offender.
A shared list of abusers. I'll just block the super slimy.
The worst, yeah.
The worst. Let's do it.
Has blocked me using the block bot. Congrats, Paul. You've just let some guy who told you this was a list of really bad people who say really bad things, and without checking it, you allowed him access to use your account to block people and to flag their accounts for spam. All for your own protection, of course. I suppose we should at least be thankful he didn't write a list of politicians that you shouldn't listen to, or subversive books you shouldn't read. All for your own protection, of course. To sum up, that's the BBC showboating and using software that will mass flag people's accounts for spam. Why? Because some woman told them that
Men are raised to hate women.
and some internet guy whose story they never bothered to fully check out said that these were really nasty people and you should block them. Block them all now. And that was it. That was the journalism of their economics correspondent. Really, BBC, get a grip. Else, I've got some really great magic beans you can buy with all that license pair money. Now, I think it should bear mentioning that this does not mean that it's impossible to harass people online. For instance, the aforementioned Rebecca Watson has this on her page of hate. As the rape threats have never been produced and are limited, it seems to anonymous comments by trolls and others who you can't know are part of the atheist community, or even if they occurred, you are jumping the gun. As an atheist/skeptic, your first job is to determine if a problem actually exists or are the inventions of a self-promoting sociopath repeated by mindless ideologues. Rebecca, have you ever read anything by George Orwell? He's kind of a hero of mine and many others of our intellectual class as well. You should take the time to thumb through 1984 and Animal Farm. You should stand to learn a few tricks about influencing the masses through censorship and propaganda, or you could just go back to street performing. The latter is the better. You're just not cut out for this gig. That's it. That's an example of what she regards as an example of people harassing her. And this is why many people see her as a professional victim. Well, that and the drama mongering by telling outrageous lies about famous atheists like Richard Dawkins.
And all that was before, as Ellen Beth referenced, one of my heroes, Professor Richard Dawkins, publicly mocked me, suggesting that I have no right to ask the men of our community to respect women.
Yeah, if there's no sensible reason for you to be on stage, then pretty much the only way you're going to stay relevant is saying shocking things about well-known people. Now, I've actually been part of what you might call real harassment. Like that time that Muslim guy decided that he was going to tell all of the local Muslim groups where I work.
I also wonder what the Muslim Student Association on that campus would believe about a faculty member endorsing these sort of bigoted opinions, which is why I sent every single one of them your videos, your statements, with your name attached.
Or when on Twitter, someone was impersonating me and sending horrifically racist and sexist comments to my friends on Twitter from an account that looked almost identical to my own, and posting images of me credibly photoshopped into porn on that and other sites. For me, that was crossing a line, and so I pursued the matter, and while I did get an apology eventually,
I did so with the intention of giving the impression that the tweets I sent came from Thunderfoot. I included his real name in the tweets that I posted also. I plausibly photoshopped him into images, including one I had made of him masturbating, and posted those from his account. I also made grotesquely racist and sexual explicitly tweets from this account. I'm deeply sorry for any of the damage and stress that my actions may have caused to his friends and colleagues, and of course to Thunderfoot himself.
I felt that the offender was more of a easily led kid with issues, and so I did not eventually make his video apology public. Yeah, I know, I'm way too soft. There's a line between parody and impersonation. There's a line between satire and slander. A fuzzy line maybe, but it's there. A professional victim like Watson will quite happily characterize what is clearly the former as the latter, and in doing so will undermine the credibility of women who are real victims of harassment.
So you decided to say you were a victim. You are the worst kind of victim. It is women like you who ruin it for real victims of domestic violence. My verdict is for the plaintiff.
Me? I draw the line at the impersonation and credibly photoshopping people into porn thing, and I really don't think that many would disagree with that. Pretty much anything else is fair game. I also note on the Twitter feed of your economics correspondent, Paul Mason, you invite some guy called Lord of Lols onto Newsnight to defend specifically the comments/jokes about rape. Really? Since when did the BBC become the piety police?
Oh God, I've killed a hippie! I've killed a hippie, and now I'll have to pay. Oh God, Vivian's bound to tell on me, and I'll get sent to prison and raped in the shower by Mr. Big, who's in with the warders. Burn the corpse. Burn the corpse.
Or is prison rape now funny? What about murder? Surely murder is a far more serious crime than rape. That is, surely if it's impossible for rape to be funny, then it would be doubly impossible for murder to be funny.
Are you suggesting that I murder Mike, Rick, and Neil in order to have the whole house to myself? Yeah! It's a thought, I suppose.
Oh wait, no, there are loads of comedy films about murder. Where is your sense of moral outrage now? Or even better, maybe you would like to defend the jokes on the BBC about child abuse.
No, I heard you was ill, so I brought you a present.
The last present you gave me was a box of matches.
That was a joke.
I was only 8 weeks old.
Or maybe making jokes about 1 million or so Brits who died in World War I. Yeah, we can all play this game with the morally outraged piety police. Seriously, Paul, would you like to defend on Newsnight why the BBC finds jokes about murder, child abuse, and the death of 1 million British servicemen funny? You see, this is fundamentally why the piety police are typically more damaging than the issue they are trying to address. England, just so we're clear, has a history of vicious political satire. Now, I'm curious where this would fall on Paul Mason's harassment scale. I see no reason why anyone who is chosen of their own volition to inject themselves into the public forum should be exempt from such treatment. Look, everyone thinks free speech is great. All the time you agree with them. Even the most zealous propaganda minister will vigorously support free speech under those circumstances. The real proof of the pudding is, do you support free speech for those who disagree with you? And the real question is, where does the BBC stand on this issue? Is it really advocating the automated use of block bots to allow an unvetted third party to not only prevent you from hearing other viewpoints like mine, for instance, but will actively try and flag those opinions off the web? Or does it support a more robust stance when it comes to the open exchange of ideas? I, for one, would like to know, because this is not a hypothetical. That's your economics correspondent, both using such tools and apparently blocking me as one of the most slimy abusers. If this general matter is one that concerns you, either as an issue of poor journalism, or if you think the BBC is not spending its licence fee responsibly, you can actually complain directly to the BBC at bbc.co.uk/complaints.